So, in order to start addressing the growing need that we've seen in our incoming students for pre-literacy instruction and support, we've started making this series of videos. This is meant to be the first in that series of very basic phonics instruction. So, like picture, letter, and then I'll be making the sound on this camera for the students to follow along. The downside of asynchronicity is um, I can't make the students repeat the sounds. I don't know if I'm waiting long enough for them to repeat the sounds, but a lot of times just hearing the sounds is a start. So it gets that student at least into the silent phase, the receptive phase of hearing the new sounds in the new language. It will be a combination of the letter sounds, vocabulary words, and also basic question forms like this is A. A says ah. What is this letter? So just building up these little tiny basic function words we barely think of as native speakers or more advanced speakers. Another need that we've seen is just with very long wait lists in our area. A lot of our students who may not even be literate in their first language, they can't get into classes for months at a time. So if we're able to give them like, hey, we have this series of videos, it's hopefully helpful and not too hard, not too easy, not too fast, that you can be working on just to be familiar. Hopefully that kind of is a resource they can draw upon if they find the time and motivation to sit down and do these. So this introduction video right here that I'm recording is meant for someone who would be helping that student, ideally who could speak in their first language or communicate more so. The grade I'm talking now, of course, is not the grade I would use with a pre-literate student who supposedly does not have other English proficiency. So for those of you helping, whether you are a resettlement team or a sibling, parent, partner of a potential student, feel free to reach out to me at Catholic Charities with any other questions. So what this, moving on, what this introduction will kind of cover, well, what the series is meant to cover that I'm going over in the introduction. So students should be able to answer, what letter is this when you hold a letter up to them? So like, oh, this is A. So they can either answer with the letter name A or the letter sound A or ah, because English has a lot of vowel sounds. They should also be able to recognize both capital and lowercase letters. We'll also incorporate a handwriting portion at the end of each letter video so they can practice writing and forming these letters. So there is a printable PDF version of the handwriting practice sheets available on our website, our Catholic Charities Resources website, which is linked to in the description below. So again, letters have letter names and letter sounds. A lot of times they have more than one sound depending on their context. Excuse me. So like A, the letter name is A, the letter sound is A, and then others depending on your dialect or accent. So like what sound does A make? Ah. What sound does B make? B. Versus what letter says B? B. What letter says A? So you see the difference between letter sound, letter name, and then also being able to produce the written form from spoken input and vice versa. So that's what we're trying to build up in our students. Recommended order, and this might change as I go along and learn more things, but short vowels, because vowels are important. So the vowel names, of course, are A, E, I, O, U, but those correspond to the long vowel sounds, actually. So we want to be learning A, I, U. That was a lot harder than I thought it would be. And then we move on to stops, so P, B, T, D, K, G. So we recommend teaching the C sound, the letter C as a hard C, like as in cat, not like citation or cyclist. And then moving on to nasals, so L, and Y. Y, yeah, we'd recommend teaching it as a more of a consonant sound for now, and um, maybe covering it more in a later video. So, or by that time, maybe the students will be into our level 1 classes, so it was out of the teachers can do that. Then we teach long vowels. You could probably teach long vowels sooner as long as they don't get them mixed up with the short vowels, just being able to identify. So like in your name, what vowels do you hear? And is that a short vowel or a long vowel? So being able to talk through that with them. Fricative, so that could, because that a lot of times gives you clues on how a word is spelled. So if they hear a new word out and about, being able to write it out based on long or short vowel spelling patterns they may or may not be familiar with. So that's what that helps. Fricative, so F and V sound, S and Z, and then H. Well, you don't usually voice it like that, but the H sound, which oftentimes gets dropped with ESL students. So we have a lot of Erisberg, and I'm from AT, so which is fine, it's great. But if you want to nip pronunciation in the bud, so that's a whole other story of whether or not to teach like perfect pronunciation or like, oh, I understand you, so it's fine. So usually it's a balance and depends on the student's goals. And then last, we're going to go over blends. So, or actually, I don't think these are blends. I mislabeled that because they're one sound. So those are digraphs. Anyway, so the TH, CH, SH, and PH, I want to highlight the TH sound, which is difficult for a lot of our students as it's not a common sound that words start with in other languages, but also in general. So yeah, so what I have in front of me, which I am learning to do, is a script because I'm not naturally a very scripted person. And so it's going to be like an I say, and so I say, I say, you say, and then I listen. And of course, I may have mentioned I cannot make the students repeat. So if you're there helping them, if you can encourage them to repeat, I'm going to do my best to have consistent gestures and symbols, which also works pretty well in person if you are instructing in person and just looking for some tips of just building consistent classroom routines that, especially with a pre-literate group, so they know what to expect, how to answer questions, so they don't get nervous when you have a questioning tone, like, do you have a pencil? And the student doesn't know what you ask, but you're looking at them like because you're expecting an answer, and then they just start to get more and more flustered. So just having those routines, like I say, you say, and then wait time. So I'm learning a lot about wait time, like looking at my webcam. So, okay, so I'm just going to run through a demonstration with a letter, what I plan for it to look like, Lord willing, because I haven't recorded any of it yet. So, okay. I might also talk through some of it. This is A. This is A. I say A. You repeat. A. A. Good. So that should mean the student should be repeating to me, to the screen. But at the same time, again, if they're in a silent receptive phase and they just want to listen and start hearing the sounds, that's fine. I won't know any better if they're repeating or not, so it's no skin off my back. Okay, sorry. So from the top again. This is A. This is A. I will say A. You repeat. A. A. Good. A says ah. A says ah. I we'll say a. U. Repeat. A. A. Good. Apple. Apple. This is an apple. A. Apple. Apple. I will say apple. You repeat. Apple. Apple. Good. I'm sure you did a great job. And then the last portion is all together. A says a, like apple. A says a, like apple. A says a, like apple. Good. And then we will move into the handwriting portion, which I have a document camera, not currently with me, it's at the office. And with some minor transition, we will switch to a worksheet that looks a lot like this and just go through probably some silent writing samples, but maybe I'll figure out how to talk through it between now and then. And I plan to upload a separate handwriting video at some point when I have my document camera. So, and hopefully that is enough to get started. Where's the PowerPoint? Enough to get started with the phonics and phonetics portion. Although you can see my PowerPoint is in alphabetical order, I will be trying to upload my videos to the playlist more in this order here that we covered. So also, again, because I'm paranoid, every picture that I've used is cited in the notes of the PowerPoint because I don't like the idea of like copyright people coming and knocking on my door and being like, hey, you're bad, come with us. And the PowerPoint and worksheets should be available for download on our Catholic Charities website, the resources site, which will, I believe I mentioned, will be linked in the video. So thank you for your time in this introduction. Best of luck, and I will be seeing you.